is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
And good afternoon and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink, and the very late Lerone Landis is off. It's his daughter's birthday this week, so they're out celebrating.
Happy birthday, Gabrielle.
And our guest is Jessica González. She is the state representative-elect from North Oak Cliff, Irving, a little bit of Grand Prairie. Is that where your district is?
Yes.
Yeah. Before we get to you, Rabbi from last show, Rabbi is still in the studio. I just wanted everybody to know who's still listening, he is a liar. The reason he played all of that liturgical music is so that Lori didn't have to type up his playlist today, because it is a paperwork week. And I just wanted everybody to know, lazy, 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 before he leaves. Have a good week.
And he's wishing us a happy week.
Because he's just a great guy. So, yeah, he was announcing, I'm doing the Saturday morning service, and I'm thinking, you're getting out of having to write all of that paperwork about who the artist is and what album it came from, which is such a pain in the neck to do.
So the royalties can go?
Yeah. So the royalties this time will go to hundreds of years old music. So, anyway, Jessica was just elected in a contest that was not contested in the general election. So you won your election in the primary.
Yes.
And there were a bunch of those. Not a whole lot in this area, but there were a bunch of those around the state.
There were lots of incumbents that were challenged in the primary. We saw a lot of folks step up to run for judicial seats, and we also saw success in the primary. So we did see a surge of folks that decided to step up and run for office.
If you voted in the general election here in Dallas, one of the things, and I don't know how it was handled in the on election day in the general election, but this is if you early voted, there was one page that just had a column and a half of people that you didn't have to vote for because they had won their election. In your precinct, your name would have been on that list.
No, I was actually on the ballot.
You were?
Yes.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if you guys know why, but I believe it's because it was county officials.
It was the county ones.
Yeah.
Column and a half of those. So those were just mostly judges, I guess.
Right. There were some that, I'm not really sure of the rules on that either, and I'm a precinct chair and an election judge, and I don't know why they did. Some were listed as just uncontested.
Some of our...
And others were, you had the dark and the oval on election day or pick it electronically. But either way, you were uncontested and sailed through, obviously. That's
okay,
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
But it didn't start off that way, did it?
No.
It started off, you were challenging Roberto Alonso, who's been in the legislature for
26 years.
26 years. Okay, long time. Could have served, he's young enough, he could have served another 20 years. No, he could have. But that's not what you were told when you started to challenge. It wasn't, oh, well, okay, good, we'll see how you do. It was not that friendly, was it?
No. I knew this going in, that, challenging, especially a long-time incumbent in the same party, was going to be, it was going to have its challenges. And I was not going to get all the endorsements. I was not going to get, money from PACs, because, they tend to go with the incumbent. So I knew these challenges going in. That didn't stop me, however, from seeking endorsements, knowing that more likely than not, I was not going to get the endorsement. The only organization who did endorse me was Stonewall Democrats in Dallas.
And Roberto,
a formidable organization,
yes.
I might add.
Sure, it's the biggest Democratic club in the state. And most people are surprised by that, but it is. So you got that one endorsement. The party, the local party, county party, what did they tell you? Without naming names or anything like that. I mean, but basically, did they encourage you, or did they?
When I was still thinking about it, because it was something that, a very hard decision that I had to make, because, sacrificing my business, and I did get discouraged from running. It wasn't necessarily somebody from the county party, but even just like mentors and such that basically to wait my turn. And I wasn't willing to do that.
And when I said, Patty, he could have served another 20 years. Wait your turn. That's 20 years from now. He wasn't showing any signs that he's ready to retire from the position. As far as you're getting the Stonewall endorsement, he had one of the lowest ratings of a Democrat by Equality Texas. It wasn't low, but it was one of the lowest of Democrats, which was still higher than most of the Republicans got. He was generally rated not one of the best legislators, but not one of the worst. So it wasn't somebody who we were looking to necessarily get rid of. So what encouraged you to not wait your turn?
Well, running for public office is something that I have always entertained, I've always thought about. And actually, when I decided to run for this seat, I was actually thinking about running for city council in 2020. So that kind of put the bug in my ear, again, about running for office. And, in talking to my mentors and talking to folks in the community, somebody said, well, have you thought about running for the legislature? You'd be a much better fit there. You'd probably serve the people a lot better there. Thinking about, okay, well, who's in that, 26 years, there's an incumbent, and people tend to not want to challenge those types of, those seats because it's really hard. And you're saying it's really hard, but statistically, you don't win. Yeah, and I think the hardest, the biggest hurdle, right, in doing that is, name ID. Mm-hmm. And my predecessor, his name ID wasn't as high as we thought, and so it was definitely grassroots, a grassroots campaign. It was knocking on doors. But back to the question, and so just kind of thinking about, do I want to do this or not?
Patty, I told you we just wanted.
Oh yeah.
She's a good guest. She just said, going back to your question, most people just ignore my question.
And you interrupt them.
I know I do.
You did mention it was kind of an ADD show, so
exactly.
David's the ADD part.
Well, and she's the ADD member of the legislature, so this works. This works.
There you go. See, now I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I know.
Let's move on to all of your incredible history. I thought your bio was just amazing, and I thought it was when you first ran. I thought, wow, I didn't know all of this about you. So tell us a little bit about your background and all of the many things. I mean, you've worked locally, you've worked, you were an incredible student right through law school, top of your class.
Thank you. Yeah.
And worked in the White House, worked in Congress. Mm-hmm. That's amazing
stuff. Let's ask you a little bit about the White House. Did you get to see the blood red trees? And what is Mr. Trump really like in person?
Oh, I was in the Obama administration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've gone back to D.C. since then, and there's definitely a different feel in the city. Mm-hmm. I wanted to go see the White House again, and my friend was like, why? So I just, because it just reminds me of my time here. And then, mm-hmm. So we walk over there, and then a huge rat just runs past us, and I was like, okay, that's...
The editorial wildlife.
Yes. That's the feel in D.C. right now. Rats running around the White House.
So what was it like working in the Obama White House?
It was exciting. I mean, I was fortunate to I worked next to or with the senior advisor on immigration policy to the president. So back then, she was working directly with I forgot her name, but she was the intergovernmental affairs director, and so they were the immigration team, and so it was my boss and her intern, and so my I mean, I did a variety of things. You know, I did her filing, I cleaned her desk, but because it was just us two, she let me take on, you know, some other projects, right? She let me, you know, write several drafts on memos to the president. One of the last things that I worked on was the, you know, DACA, the DREAM Act, where we were writing a recommendation. Here are the different options. And the president was actually advised not to go with either one of them. And I had already left the White House, and my boss texted me. She said he's going to do it. So he, even despite the fact that he was advised by his counsel to not move forward with any of the recommendations, he did it anyway. So it was pretty amazing. I learned a lot, and but yeah, it was working there. And I had always said I'm not going to go work on the campaign. I was like, I don't want to work on the campaign. But that experience, I was like, this man needs to get reelected. You know, he truly cares about the people. And I got a phone call, and I had written a paper when I was in D.C. That talked about the different state laws that were proposed or passed in 2010 that were, you know, voter suppression, right? And I talked about the impact that would have on the Latino community in generations to come. And I was, you know, gave some policy recommendations. So the campaign got a hold of my paper. They called me and asked if I would consider, you know, working as a voter protection director for the state of Nevada. At that point, when I was interviewing, I didn't even know what state it was. You know, I was like, this sounds great. And I was like, wait, where is this at? And in Nevada. I was like, oh. So next thing I knew, I jumped in my Jeep and I was driving to Las Vegas, and I was there for about 6 months.
Wow. Just you drop everything and go.
I didn't even have an apartment. I got there, I was like, I'll just get a hotel or something and figure it out.
Well, if you drop enough money, that would comp you the entire 6 months, probably. I'm just kidding.
What type of voter suppression laws did they have in Nevada? Tell us about some of the ones here in Texas. Because we've talked about it. I don't know if we've ever gotten that specific on it, and what the effect is on the community.
In regards to
what are these voter suppression laws?
Well, I mean, some of them, the ones that we saw were the voter ID, right, making it more challenging for folks to, you know, what kind of ID they have to use when they go vote. People will get to the polls, they don't have the proper ID, they get turned away, or they fill out a provisional ballot, which may or may not, you know, get counted, you know, later. So a lot of it, what I did, you know, Nevada is actually their laws there are very different. They're making it a whole lot easier than we do here in Texas. You know, like with poll watching and things like that, to make sure that people aren't there, you know, electioneering, that the poll workers are getting properly trained, and that they are offering a provisional ballot when somebody doesn't have their ID on them or something like that. And so we saw some of this stuff too in Texas. I mean, we saw that we got rid of the straight party ticket voting that happened last session. You know, so there's little things like this that do happen in Texas, and people don't necessarily think about them too much, but they do. I mean, they do suppress the vote.
In some states, if your voter registration didn't match your driver's license, like your driver's license might say Patti Fink, but your voter registration might say the late Patti Fink. If they don't exactly match, you know, with a different last name, if you have a married name, all of those are reasons for not letting you vote. In the Hispanic community, especially, this could affect because you use
the last names,
and you're more likely to have those extra names in there. The more names you have, the more likely they are not to exactly match.
You know, some of that is having consistency, right? Because some I mean, they may put your last name as your middle name, right? Or they may hyphenate your last name. And so a lot of it is just, okay, how do we create that consistency so that doesn't happen when people go to the polls?
And it used to be, when you registered to vote, that for women for many, many years, and this is just the patriarchy screaming, you had to put your maiden name. And so a lot of women did that, and they incorporated it into a woman's name on her voter registration. And with the voter ID law, a lot of women would have been essentially discriminated by state law, discriminated against. But we have Wendy Davis to thank for that. When she was senator, she was the one who introduced the substantially similar amendment to this bill, so that it wouldn't have to be exact. so that sanity could prevail. And we went through years of telling our voters to change their voter registration to conform to and comport with their ID.
And I guess when you get married, one of the last things you think of doing, unless you're moving, is updating your voter registration. We update our driver's licenses. We update.
Well, that's
the main one.
That's what's been so insane about Trump and his mess, because he's saying, oh, well, they have dead people on the rolls. They have people who moved, who don't even live there anymore. These people are voting. No, they're not. But I'll tell you what, there's not a jurisdiction, an elections department anywhere in this country that doesn't have dead people on their rolls and people who moved. And there's a process for eliminating them. If they don't vote in 2 federal elections, they're suspended, and then they fall off, because people don't move and then call back and say, hey, can you take me off the voter roll?
When Brian died, I did not call the county to say take him off the voter registration list, and I didn't call the state to say cancel his driver's license. You just don't do those things. So
yeah.
And you mentioned this, the purging the voters. I mean, off the list. I mean, is that really? There's people who think that they're registered to vote, and they show up and they haven't voted in 2 federal elections, and they're no longer on the voter rolls anymore. Other states don't do that. I mean, like Nevada doesn't do that. They actually want people to vote, and we see a lot of that stuff here in Texas.
What I've never understood, the government can find anybody they need to, especially when it comes to paying taxes. Right? There's no question.
What they should do is they should hire college alumni associations, because they can find you anywhere. They will hunt you down.
Or some of these telemarketing companies. They know who's where. What I've never understood is, why isn't everybody just automatically registered to vote? You're automatically on the rolls for jury duty. Why aren't you automatically on the rolls to vote? And everybody votes and votes once, and we don't have a problem with voter.
That's what Kate Brown, governor of Oregon, just did in her state. She just signed a bill that said everybody's registered unless they opt out. So I think that's a pretty cool idea, that you're registered if you're eligible.
Registered to vote, now vote. I don't get why we have anything other than that. We need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink. Our guest is State Representative-elect Jessica González, who will be representing a district, North Oak Cliff, West Oak Cliff, into Irving a little bit into Grand Prairie. Is that accurate?
Yes, a lot of Grand Prairie.
A lot of Grand Prairie, okay.
And then it kind of snakes into West Dallas.
Because our districts are so gerrymandered.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
It's so stupid. I'm holding up a picture to the mic. It's
hold that up so everybody can see it.
It's
right.
Crazy.
We'll be back with more with Jessica right after this.
This is Rollins Gilliland, and I'm listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3, and darn glad to be doing it.
And this is Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here with the late Patti Fink. And Jessica González is our guest. We were talking a little bit about your being a White House intern. Or were you just actually an employee?
No, I was there. So I got selected to be the law graduate fellow for an organization called the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute. So I was there on with that program, and it was paid. So I was actually able to survive and eat while I was there. and I had the first part of my placement, I was with a freshman from California, Karen Bass. And so because she was a freshman, she had very small staff. And so I was kind of able to jump in and be a legislative assistant. So I handled a quarter of her policy portfolio. And then I handled her Foreign Affairs Committee work as well. During that time, I applied for the White House internship program, and I got accepted into that. And so I did my second placement in the White House.
It's going to be very different, I think, in Austin, as you probably know, because you've already been to Freshman Week, right?
I have. I already have my office.
Cool.
And I was going to say, I started looking at bills that have already been filed, and you and Julie have not filed any bills yet, but you can't, can you? Because you're not a member of the legislature.
We cannot file anything until after we get sworn in.
Which will be Tuesday, January 8th.
Yes.
And I'll be down there. Are you going down?
I'm going down 9 a.m. to noon.
But I do have some bills that are that are being worked on right now. So
what areas are they? Obviously not what's the details of them, but
one of them has to do with amending the penal code. You'll see when it comes out.
okay. Oh, it's going to be a surprise.
But there's some some smaller bills that I'm looking at. Definitely going to do some work on elections. I'm hoping to be on the elections committee, and so that's going to be my top committee choice. And there's a few others that I'd like to be on as well.
The lawsuit that was brought by the Texas Civil Rights Project in Texas against the state of Texas with regard to online registration for voting is going to make an interesting session because the problem had been at the DMV when people go to get their driver's license renewed. If you present yourself in person, you can say, yes, I want to register to vote, and with all of this information that I've just filled out, or renewing, and get that over to the elections department, and I would be a registered voter. But people who were renewing their licenses online checked a box, and guess what? It didn't do anything. It did diddly squat. Didn't go anywhere, didn't cause the registration to be triggered, nothingness. And so the Texas Civil Liberties Project sued and won. And so now the state of Texas has to accommodate that, because if it's available, if voter is available in person, it must be available online. And so I think we might be possibly getting some online voter registration in Texas, which would be pretty cool.
That would be great.
In this election, millions more people voted than in the last election, and more than had ever voted before in Texas. And yet we're still 50th in voter participation. We should be doing everything we can to get more people to vote.
Wasn't there like several thousands of voter registrations that weren't processed? Because
yes,
they got lost or something like that, right? Or at the post office or something. And I'm not sure what happened with that. Do you guys?
No, I don't have the details on it, but it's a messed up system. We need to have it be secure and be. I think if you opted everybody in and then you'd have to opt out, I think that's a fine idea in my book.
I'm not sure why people would want to opt out, but okay.
It's maybe you're an anarchist or something.
Well,
you don't want to
vote. Just because you're registered doesn't mean it doesn't drive you to the polls. It doesn't force you to go. So you're registered to vote. It's not. It's a civic obligation, really, as far as I'm concerned. I like a system like Australia has, where if you don't vote and you don't have a reasonable excuse, like you were in the hospital, you're sent to fine because it's an obligation, and they have like 85% voter participation. That's the way it should be.
You get a warrant for your arrest if you don't go vote.
But
I think that's pretty awesome, because I think it's great to. If everybody voted, we would have a different government.
But does Australia make it easier for you to get to the polls? I mean, because I think part of the problem too with people not, folks that work, hourly jobs that can't leave work, to go vote.
Well, one thing they do, it's a holiday. That makes it easier if things are closed.
Oh, that's great.
But you can't close hospitals. You can't close fire departments and police and
that's true.
Emergency services. I mean, there are all kinds of things that continue 24/7.
That's true, and apparently it is much easier, and I don't know all the details of it, but apparently it is much easier. I don't think you have to vote in your precinct. That's one thing. If you could vote near where you worked, if you're taking a bus across town to get to work, you can't then take the bus back across town to where you lived so that you can go vote, get back on the bus, get back to, those kinds of things.
That's why I think early voting is so essential for all of these communities, and I think it would be really, really good for our communities to have voting longer through early voting, so that many days it's 8 to 5. Well, that doesn't really help a lot of people.
Well, another thing about early voting is great. You can vote in any early voting location in your county, but there are a bunch of people who live in Dallas who don't live in Dallas County, and it gets confusing. So,
you mean who work in Dallas?
Yeah. No, who live in Dallas, in the city of Dallas, but they live in Collin County,
Oh, I
and
see.
they think they could vote anywhere in Dallas, but they can't. They have to vote anywhere in Collin County, and electronically you have a precinct number. It would be real easy for those precinct numbers to be good across the state, and you just type in that number and you vote anywhere in the state. But that's not going to happen anytime soon.
So let's get back to you got your office. So where are you located?
My office number is 820.
820.
Yeah, and so Julie Johnson is actually going to be in my hallway as well, and John Turner.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it'll be a fun little hallway. I picked my desk, so I'm going to be desk mates with Mary González. So we're going to be
excellent.
On the floor.
on the floor. Yes. So yeah,
And so you're not worried that you'll be infected by Mary's, she's a lunatic. I love Mary.
I told her I was going to keep her in shape.
Okay. Okay. And I guess that'll keep some of the lesbians together anyway on the floor, so that you won't infect the rest of the legislature with your craziness. The other thing is you're rooming with Julie Johnson.
I am. Julie and I met several years ago at an HRC event, and then she was an appointed mediator on one of my cases. And then when we both had announced we were running, we would have calls sometimes and just kind of venting, oh my God, what did we get ourselves into? So we became, really good friends through the primary, and then, until we both are going to join the House. And so we decided to be roommates. Yeah.
That's awesome, because you have to have a place to stay.
Yes.
Yes. Pretty much round the clock for the entire session. There's not going to be a lot of opportunity to run home when things are happening all weekend.
Well, you certainly can't commute from here to Austin on a daily basis.
No, you can barely get out of Austin or into Austin or back into Dallas and out of Dallas.
Yes, traffic is definitely a problem there.
So you have found a place about a block and a half from the Capitol. You can walk to work.
Yes.
This sounds like fun. It really does.
Yeah, we both like convenience. So if we have to run back to vote for something, or something comes up last minute, then we're right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and you're thinking of doing a blog.
Yeah, we talked about that, of doing a blog for Julie and I. Maybe Julie and Jessica do Austin, and kind of going day by day. Things when we get sworn in, and first day we're going to vote for Speaker of the House. So it's going to be a crazy day, and so we talked about kind of just tracking us through our first session, and engaging the folks from our district, and just kind of letting them know what we're doing over there.
That would be an awesome way to do it, and to do it together kind of takes the pressure off one of you just constantly having to update every day. Because you'd both be essentially doing the same sorts of things. Maybe not the same committees or the same stuff, but if a vote came up, one of you
by the
talked
end of the
about it.
session, it's going to be Jessica's going to be on. That Julie Johnson just sponsored a bathroom bill to satisfy her constituents.
Ha!
Yeah.
So you don't see yourself voting for any bathroom bills, huh?
No.
If anything, now Harriet Earhart, when she first went to the legislature, said that the Capitol building itself did not even have a women's restroom off the floor of the House.
No.
By design. They never even conceived of having any women in the Capitol building. So maybe if there is a bathroom bill come forward, it will be to install more women's restrooms or enhance those that already exist. So that could be a good bathroom bill.
When Finn Jones, who did not win, Finn Jones is a transgender man, and he was running for a district. It was going to be, no matter who the Democrat was, it was going to be a difficult race. Trans did not come up in his race among people he spoke to in the district, he said. And he came pretty close for that district, did better than any Democrat's ever done in that district. So, but I said to Finn, if you're elected, I'm coming down to the legislature to take a picture of you walking into the men's room in the Capitol.
Yeah, I don't know the restroom count in the Capitol.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I'm not sure, but I know there's one right outside the House chamber. So,
So let's go over to the 5 women who are out LGBT people, of which, of course, you and Julie are two, from Dallas, Dallas County. We also have Celia Israel and Mary González, and Erin Zwiener.
She's from a district. She's
Outside of Austin, right?
It's southwest of Austin.
It's Hill Country, Wimberley, Driftwood.
And she's from Dripping Springs, and that's about 30 minutes commute to Austin. Her race was really interesting. In Dripping Springs, there had been a case of a trans kid in the high school who wanted to use the bathroom, and the administration, no, it's one of those things, making it difficult for the kid, and the town rallied around the kid. And so they have experience with these issues in a different way than you usually hear about in the media, because in the media, oh my God, this kid wanted to use the bathroom because he had to pee. It's like that's an issue. And the administration stepped in. When we had Valerie Hefner, who was running for the legislature up in Sherman, she got involved because her kid was not being treated very nicely in school. All of a sudden, she jumped into a race for the state house, and they figured out a way to let her kid pee in school. Just stupid things like this. But in the case of Erin, her town rallied around the kid. They told the administration, fix it. They did. And why haven't we heard about this in the news? Because the town fixed it themselves. They figured it's not a problem. So when Erin started running, and Erin was involved in that, and when she started running, she wasn't this outsider lesbian. She was somebody who fixed a problem and fixed it the way the town wanted it, which is just good to see in a town that is rural. So I'm looking forward to meeting her.
Well, it seems to me, did your sexual orientation come up in your race?
No, not at all.
And Julie didn't encounter that quite a lot. And I thought that was really extraordinary too, that she's representing one of the most diverse districts, certainly in the county, but in the state and perhaps across the country still. It used to be the most diverse zip code out there. And she contributes to that diversity herself, and yet did not highlight that or make that the biggest point of her campaign. So I think it's really extraordinary that we have 5 out LGBT women in the legislature who are there, and it's not a big deal that, in your campaigns.
Just 2 races ago, you said you're going to be voting for the Speaker of the House the first day. The last major challenge was when somebody from Collin County was challenging Speaker of the House, and 17 or 19 members of the House voted against. And it was so entertaining to watch, because it was like, oh yeah, okay, it's fun to watch this party imploding on itself. Somebody called, because they weren't just challenging, they were angry. And the 4 representatives from Collin County were the ringleaders of this. And Joe Strauss, who was the speaker, he's being as diplomatic as he can, and you could tell he was steaming. Somebody from this group of 19 stood up and said, I call for a roll call count. And he said, oh yeah, we're going to do a roll call count, just like that. And as punishment, and I love this punishment, they rearranged some of the offices after this. So Celia and Mary, where their offices were, Celia and Mary each had one of these members next to her in her office, diagonal from her, across from her, diagonal, and next to her. Same thing with the other one. That was part of the punishment. You're going to be next to a lesbian.
Oh, wow.
And Mary had some choice words, which I guess I can't say on the air, about that. She just thought it was funny, because, they were kind of in on the joke. So... but there was a serious challenge. Now, Joe Strauss is gone. He's the person, more than anybody, responsible for killing the bathroom bill. I mean, he came out and said, I'm not going to be responsible for a kid's death. And he put it in just those terms, and he's right. Have you met the new speaker?
I have.
And what do you think of him?
You know, has mentioned wanting to have a bipartisan House. That he doesn't want issues like the bathroom bill coming up because it's a waste of time. He said that, you know, his priority, and this is great, I mean, because we all know that we have to do something about the public education system and providing more money for it.
What's wrong with it?
Oh, you know.
It's something. Any part of it.
Right? And so he did say that was top priority. And so that's a top priority for the Democrats too. And so I'm hopeful that we can actually do something about that. And it's not just saying what we want to hear. So, you know, he seems like he wants to just let us do our job as legislators and you know, create laws and that are going to benefit the entire state and not entertain, you know, things like a bathroom bill. So, you know, I'm hopeful that we can actually get these things accomplished. It's going to be an interesting session, you know, and it's an exciting time to start at the legislature because we just don't know what's going to happen.
If a bathroom bill does come up, you could file a counter bill that the bill could just be pee. Just pee. I don't care. And fair-minded legislators would pass that one rather than legislating whatever the garbage was that Matt Rinaldi wanted to legislate. We need to take a break.
Okay.
So hold your thought. I'm not interrupting you, Patty, I promise you.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm really not.
Okay.
We'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
Hi, this is Valletta Lil, and I listen to Lambda Weekly. I hope that you will too.
Welcome back to Lambda Weekly. Our guest today is Jessica González. She is a state representative-elect. If you didn't hear a lot about her in the election, it's because she won her election in the primary. Jessica, you didn't have a challenger, a Republican challenger in your race.
I did not.
So your name wasn't out there in the way some other people were, and you didn't have a high-profile incumbent that you were challenging the way Julie did in an opposite party. Julie Johnson, who was elected in Northwest. Yeah. Patty, you were about to ask a question.
We were talking in the very brief break about the speaker-elect, I guess. I think he has declared that he has the votes available to win. And we know that Speaker Strauss, during previous sessions, has been able to fend off a lot of idiocy. And a lot of that idiocy has originated in the Senate from the lieutenant governor, one Dan Patrick, sportscaster, or whatever his or right-wing radio, I guess he was. And so Strauss, I thought, navigated that pretty well. But do you think Bonin has the wherewithal to do that, to fend off some of the crazy that's going to come from Patrick?
I believe so. And just, you know, meeting him and him discussing how he sees how his leadership is going to be different and how he wants to lead the House. I believe that he will.
So if the crazy did just start, you know, like a geyser coming from Dan Patrick in the Senate, you think he would not even entertain the bills, make sure the bills don't move in the House, you know, or like through calendars? Or do you think he would let some of them come just to appease them?
I mean, I think going off of what he has said and how he wants to lead, then I would say yes, he wouldn't entertain you know, these types of bills. But I mean, we don't know. I guess we'll see what kind of leadership he's going to bring to Austin.
One of the things we've noticed among the anti-LGBT hate groups out there is a pretty concentrated plan to attack the trans community, and that we'll probably see some of that in the Texas legislature in this session. One of the things that they're going to try to do is to split the LGB from the T, and because they think they've seen that it's a losing proposition to be anti-gay. Like they're going to lose that stuff because the general public is supporting us, and it would be hard pressed to take back some of those rights and things that we've already won, like marriage and those that come from the benefits that flow from marriage. But they want to isolate the T. It's kind of like a divide and conquer. do you guys have a strategy as a caucus to fend off some of that stuff, or do you want some input from the LGBT community?
I would love some input from the LGBT community. And Julie and I will be champions for that. We work really well together, but we don't have an LGBT caucus.
You could.
About to start one.
Yeah,
It's about time. There are 5 of you.
We don't even have a women's
Oh,
caucus.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
there needs to be a
surprising.
women's caucus, and then, a rainbow. You could have a rainbow caucus.
Rainbow caucus.
And there, 5. I was thrilled when I heard that we were doubled, and 2 of them, you and Julie, doubled it right here in Dallas County, and then to learn of Aaron Zwiener. I thought 5. There's no going back now.
Yeah.
This is going to be more like 7, 10.
So one strategy.
14.
That is one strategy that we could just take over the House.
We could. But I think that's really very cool. And as a caucus, you could make statements together and take positions.
But yeah, we rely on the LGBT community to give us this input. And what can we do at a state level, to make sure that our communities are being protected and our rights aren't being taken away.
I'm sure we'll be giving some of. I know I have some things that I'll share.
So we're going to become like best friends now.
Sure.
Yeah,
You
awesome.
bet. Yes, I got some real thoughts on that.
Let me turn Patty's microphone off while I say.
Well, at least I know that you're always late, right? So if she has an appointment with me, then I know.
Just schedule it 15 minutes before you're planning on being there. That's my advice.
Okay.
Some of the issues that are going to come up, even though immigration is a federal issue, really, it is our border, and it is one of our state borders that's being affected. And you've worked on things like DACA. So I know you have some ideas on this. What are some things that can be done to keep the border safe, to keep the people who are trying to come across the border safe? Because you're not on the side of killing babies who are on the border and separating them from their parents. But what are some of the things that we can do?
I think that having a strong relationship with these agencies, right, that are processing, asylum cases, and the people that are out there waiting, and we heard this little Guatemalan girl who died the other day, and just making
Of
sure,
dehydration.
yeah, and just making sure that there are humane conditions out there.
Well, we just heard about it the other day. They didn't report that death to Congress in the appropriate amount of time.
Yeah.
So this happened a while ago.
But I know that the Mexican American Legislative Caucus is. That's definitely something that is a priority for the caucus. So, and just making sure that things like that aren't happening, that kids aren't dying. So I think working with these agencies, working with making sure that we have detention centers that aren't inhumane, that people aren't being packed in there, and just kind of overseeing that and seeing what we can do, right, to alleviate some of that.
And I know your answer is a little bit vague, but it's limited what a state can do. Even you as a state legislator, you can pass laws, but they don't apply because the federal government supersedes.
One thing they could stop doing, though, at the Border Patrol is Good Samaritans have been setting out jugs of water, big jugs of water, water bottles out in the desert so that if people are crossing, they don't die of dehydration, like we allowed a 7-year-old little girl to die. They've been going out there and taking that water, opening it up, and pouring it on the ground. And because I think that Trump's point is cruelty. That's
Cruelty in order to discourage people from coming.
Right, but the goal is cruelty.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not making excuses. I'm
Right.
saying, why would he even think that way? But that's the thought process. If we're cruel, then people won't come.
And I just think it's sick. It's psychologically sick. It's just beneath being even a human being to be that cruel. But I do think that's one thing they can do is stop pouring the water into the sand. Leave the water alone. And that could help a lot of people right off the bat, and at least send a better message that no, we don't want you to die in the desert if you enter illegally. It's a starting place.
Good. What a low point to start with, though.
Don't kill the
die.
water source.
Yeah, we don't want you to die from this one thing. Another thing that you talked about was education, and a number of people running for the legislature this time tied education reform and fully funding education, because that's what the legislature can do, is the funding part. And they're tying that to property taxes. In your district, did you hear much about property taxes?
Well, that's what I read on. I mean, that was my message, and a lot of it was knocking on doors and figuring, and asking folks, what their concerns were, what they wanted me to work on in Austin, and a lot of it came down to that. And so, I mean, my voters, created my message for me, and so. But then the challenge is how do we communicate that, right, in a simple way that a voter's going to understand, they're going to get it, and tying the fact that the state has reduced funding for public education by 30%, over the past 10 years, and who's, and it's you, the homeowner, who has to make up for it. People are getting taxed out of their homes, people are losing their homes, and there's several pockets, especially like, the Bishop Arts District, that has, significantly changed, over the past 10 years, and it's continuing to change. These properties that are around there, the property values have skyrocketed. And I think we could probably say that across Texas, but there are certain areas, for me, it's the Bishop Arts area. There's some pockets in Grand Prairie, and then West Dallas, right? And so, communicating that with them, and it hits their pocket, right, and they get it. But yeah, that was the top issue in my district.
And if you take my neighborhood in Oak Lawn, when you pay your property tax is based on a certain dollar amount that you pay per $1,000 value of the home. Houses in my neighborhood have gone up in 10 years by about $200,000. As the base starting price. So houses that were about $150,000 in that neighborhood in 2000 to 2005 now are starting at $350,000. That's whatever that dollar amount is times 200 that your property taxes have gone up in just about 10 years, which makes it unaffordable for some people. Are you hearing from people who are saying, I'm losing my house because of my taxes?
Yes, that people, especially if folks have fixed incomes, and they, even if it's a couple $100s or something like that, that could really, that could significantly impact an entire family. But yes, I had, people in my law firm, prior to even, announcing that I was running, I had people that would come to my office that lost their home, and, they're elderly or they have a fixed income and they don't know what to do. Right, and so, it's really sad. It's really sad, and so we have to protect our people. We have to make sure that people aren't losing their homes, because then what are they going to? What are they going to do after that?
Well, and Texas likes to tout it's, we're pro-business and we don't have a state income tax and never will, and that's why business booms here. But it still doesn't mean that people aren't taxed to cover an investment in our kids. And so we don't do a state income tax, that's fine, but the funding, the state needs to carry its portion as well, and be responsible.
And to
There's
be
so
clear,
much to be redone.
These taxes that we're talking about, some people are thinking, okay, we fund education from a state level rather than from a local level, so then the state tax goes up. Actually, the money is just being banked. A lot of it is coming from oil, because one of the largest owners of oil wells in the country is University of Texas. So,
and other state universities.
And the other state. I meant that university system, not just the Austin. But
right.
Yeah.
A&M, all of those.
Right.
Now we have another big issue. Texas has the highest number of uninsured children in this country. We know that we have some severe poverty for children right here in the city of Dallas. What are some things that it's got to be one of those top issues with education? What are some thoughts about maybe expanding Medicaid in Texas, some other strategies to help get kids the health care they need?
Well, that's definitely been a conversation that we, as as a caucus too, that we've talked about. We had a caucus retreat earlier this year, which I was able to attend because I won my primary, and so we talked about some of these priorities, and that was one of them. And I believe there's already been bills that have been filed, but we're definitely going to see attempts, right, to try to resolve that. Even if I don't know. But yeah, we're definitely going to see some of that.
And the Affordable Care Act was just declared unconstitutional this week by a Texas judge.
By a bozo Texas judge.
Well,
he's a federal judge.
Yeah.
He was the same one, though, that said, let's throw out the Obama standards for guidelines in education for trans kids, so that each school sets their policy according to these guidelines and allows kids to be who they are.
Right. But he did, it's still, I don't care what kind of a lunatic he is, even though the Supreme Court has already ruled that the Affordable Care Act is constitutional, they changed some of it.
The individual mandate was even ruled by the United States Supreme Court to be constitutional. And the U.S. Congress took it out this year. Mm-hmm. And now he's trying to decide that the individual mandate is unconstitutional. It's not even part of the bill anymore. Yeah. It's a nonsense. It's a nonsense.
Yeah, and these issues become politicized when they don't need to be politicized. Mm-hmm. And I'm hopeful that in the House, that it's, hey, we build coalitions where we can, right? Let's take politics, just put that aside, and what can we do to work together to benefit the people of our state. Mm-hmm. And when we can't build those coalitions, when we can't get things done because we want to politicize an issue, then we need to talk about it. We raise the debate, and we let people know what's going on.
And healthcare is one of those things that, again, how does it get paid for? Well, you know what? If somebody has no health insurance and you live in Dallas County, you go to Parkland Hospital, and all of us pay a Parkland Hospital mm-hmm. tax. And I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm saying there are cheaper ways to do this.
Mm-hmm. See, I work in health IT, and when the ACA was first passed and implemented, there were healthcare navigators at all of these public hospitals that were turning around and finding their frequent flyers, or as I guess they're called now, familiar faces, but people who come through it and really, really cost the system a lot of money. And they're literally paying the premium for them. Because it's a lot cheaper to pay $250 a month for a homeless person to have, or a frequent flyer to have, health insurance, and then the hospital gets reimbursed. Mm-hmm. So it's then to just have all of that billing unreimbursed whatsoever. So I don't know. It's a big, big need, and we constantly battle with Mississippi to be the worst in the country. And here we are, number 50.
But we're battling here in Dallas County with Collin County, that doesn't have a county hospital and doesn't contribute to our county hospital tax, with them sending people to our hospital. There needs to be something on a statewide basis that equalizes this somehow. So.
Well, right at the end of the hour, but before we go, I want to know, did you practice the buzzer on your desk to vote? Have you tried it yet?
Yeah, we did a mock. So part of our freshman orientation, we had like a mock committee hearing, and then we had like a mock, a roll call. Not roll call, but how we would, how it's going to be when we get there. And so yeah, we got to vote on some bills that we were practicing with. But yeah. It was fun.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. And you see your name light up on the board?
Well, my name's not there yet. It should be now. My understanding is that our offices have our names on there, that they're getting everything ready for us. So
I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
It is fun.
You'll be one of those that has, I guess, like your first initial, because there's more than one González in the legislature.
Yep.
Exciting.
Oh, that's right.
And Julie, how many bazillion Johnsons?
Well, there's also a Jarvis Johnson, so it's going to be, she can't just use her.
Yeah, there's a Jay Johnson already. Wow. Well, good luck. And we come back after the session.
Yes.
And or during the session.
Yeah.
And let's talk again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I'll be down for inauguration, so will Pattie. I'm looking forward to that. And for all of us here on Lambda Weekly, be best.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.